my name is Charlie Brooks. Welcome to this month's Q&A. Today we have the gorgeous Vera Chok, who is currently in Hollyoaks, but has an extensive career in theatre and so many other juicy things for us to get out of her brain. So without further ado, I always say that, I'm going to bring in the lovely Vera. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to IAMPRO. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh my gosh, it's such a pleasure.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love getting new people on. I always learn so many new things because I always say on this platform, you know, I'm not an expert on anything, and I am learning alongside everybody that's on this platform. And every time we have a guest on, I always learn something new. So I'm really excited about our chat today. We start by asking how it all began for you. How did you get into acting?
Oh gosh, long story, but I'll try and hit the key points. I went to drama school super late, as it were. I went to the post school when I was 29, and that was after I tried several different careers. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I had massive breakup. I was going to leave the country, and I wandered into post school and started training there. But I feel that I started performing when I was very little in Malaysia when I was growing up. Even though I didn't know any artists, any performers, I didn't think it was possible to even have a job within the arts. And I was told that it was a waste of time to do anything artistic. In primary school and in secondary school, we were always encouraged to demonstrate lessons by acting them out in class. So things like, oh, there's a wallet on the floor, what should we do? That kind of thing. So I was quite used to being in front of people, but never had the experience of taking on a character and doing all the emotions until I got to England when I was doing sixth form. And again, I wandered into an acting class, and through my life and career, I've just fallen into things by following my nose and being curious about stuff. I've always been the person who knows nothing, and then I try something because it scares me or challenges me. And then I I meet amazing people, have adventures and learn, and it takes me in exciting, beautiful directions, right? So I walked into this acting class. Teacher thought I couldn't speak English because I was such an alien in that space. But then, in months, I kind of did some lambda exams and got the highest grade and things like that because it felt so like something I could do. Got to university, still didn't know what I wanted to do. Was studying something completely unrelated, and ended up playing loads and loads of very silent Asian characters. So, the stereotype of they sit, or not just Asian characters, but the narrator or the outsider or the person nobody likes, it didn't sit very well with me. I started my own theatre company, again, knowing nothing, but just going, oh, if I know nothing, how would I do it? And what would I like to see on stage? How would I want to work with people? And I did quite well, but again, no guidance, no relatives in the country, no mentors, and I didn't know how to be a director. At the time, there weren't very many directing courses, and I couldn't afford it anyway. I didn't have any sort of financial backing. So I just did admin jobs, worked in restaurants. I was just trying to figure out my life for ages. But then when I finally got to my life crisis, and again bumbled into summer school at the post school, the teachers there said, oh, you're really good, but we don't think you have the personality to be an actor. And this was a thing I realized a lot of people had been saying to me, that I was not strong enough, that I was too emotional, and that wouldn't be able to withstand the I guess the rejections, the hard grind, etc. And I've been thinking about this week. People think I'm weak because I present as being very emotional. And I think that being able to show emotion, being able to tap into that, I mean, that's That's like gold for an actor.
I just wrote that down. I was like, I do need to talk about that.
Right? Like, and I feel that I'm incredibly resilient and I have achieved a lot in life. And maybe my strength doesn't look like what people think is a strong person. And yeah, so that's interesting. Anyway, I didn't take on board what the teachers told me at the post school. I went to the principal and asked for an audition. And I got in, and a few weeks later I was training to be an actor whilst holding down a full-time job, and just yeah, it was. And I've pretty much been acting solidly, so it's yeah, that's my
Oh my
brief
God.
story.
I already know that this is going to be an amazing chat. You said so many things there, Vera, that I'm just like, yes, yes. Starting with training late. You started training late. And so, I have so many people say to me on this platform, is it too late? I'm a certain age and, I feel like I've missed the boat. And it's just not true, is it?
No. I do think there's things to be aware of if you start later. Like, one, you've got the focus. You're like, oh, I have to do this now. So that's already an advantage. But to sort of be mindful of the sort of habits and your ego, because you're like, I don't want to look silly in front of 17-year-olds or whatever. I mean, that has to go out the window.
Yeah.
Right. And by virtue of being older, we feel that we've sort of know something about life. But I think no matter who you're working with, a director or a teacher at drama school, if they're telling you to do stuff, your job is to do it. They might not be right. Then that might not be right all the time, right? But your job is to do it. So just do it and then see what you can take for yourself and see how you can be the best actor. Does that make sense?
A complete sense. I think it's about remaining teachable always.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's about. And I loved it when you said there was just something inside me and about remaining curious, and that you just followed this little fire that was actually in your belly, even though from your upbringing, you said that you had nothing to do with the arts, and there was no, drama. I don't know, not that I'm paraphrasing, but wasn't necessarily relevant. And yet through drama, they were teaching you life skills. So it just goes to show how important it is actually. But that one little flare from that one class at school then led you to go, oh, actually, it lit something inside you, and that you've been bold enough and unafraid enough to follow that through in a country where you didn't have any relatives or anything. That's fucking amazing.
I mean, I have to remind myself, on days when I'm like, oh gosh, maybe I am very weak or whatever. I'm like, actually, it's a good thing to just go, what have I achieved? And go, yeah, I've done a lot. And I do specifically remember when I went to drama school, I was like, if I don't do this, I will regret it. I'm interested in so many things in life, but how do you pick one thing to commit to in that time? I'm like, yeah, this is the time to do it. It doesn't mean that I'm tied to it for the rest of my life, but I feel no regrets, right? I think.
But so many people, I think, might have that feeling and not act on it. Mm-hmm. And remain asleep and remain in in their life, which is they've had to get a job or they've had a family, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, if that makes you happy. But if you've got that fire in your belly and you're brave enough to take action on it without fear, then or not with fear. I don't think we're ever without fear. I have to say, I think we're brave because we feel the fear and we do it anyway.
Yeah.
That's true courage to me.
Yeah.
And the emotional side of things, as you were saying that, that it was a sign of weakness, and that's what you were told by these teachers. I was writing down, nope, too emotional means you have access to all of these beautiful feelings, because that's what humaning is. That's what we are.
Yeah, exactly. And It just reminds me of like, I feel all these emotions and I feel like I can perform them, but I do wonder sometimes whether sometimes I'm very self-conscious about being Chinese and how my eyes are small and like people can't see my emotion because my eyes are smaller. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do about it? I mean, I can't do anything about the size of my eyes. But you know, it's strange. It's a strange thing to go, oh, how do I accept the body that I'm in within an industry that is so based on symbols and signs and messaging through
Yeah.
visual things, right? Um, like for ages, like for example, I'm whatever age I am, but I don't play my age. That's like a very basic example. But someone said the other day, "Oh, we want you to look rougher." I'm like, "Oh, I can act it, but from afar, I still look like a child because I'm small." I don't know if I'm making sense, but I do struggle sometimes with, like, being, looking like I do or being self-conscious about that.
That's so has that been one of your challenges, do you think? And you say that you practice acceptance over that, or like how can you just talk me through that process and
Mm.
what the challenges were then, and how you feel like you're overcoming them?
I suppose a very basic level is sort of feeling really conscious that I'm Asian. And through, like I said, through university, they'd be like, "Ah, you'll be good as the quiet one," or etc. All the stereotypes, basically. So dealing with stereotypes when I look like me,
Yeah,
um, and how I deal with it is to just, I suppose, take energy from people who've come before me, who are Asians who've just stayed in the game. And I use the word Asian to just refer to everyone from Asia. Um, and that again, the resilience and sort of belief in the good work that you can offer, as opposed to going, oh, it's an egotistical thing of like, nobody wants me. I just think somebody will see what it is that I can specifically do because everybody has their strengths, right? And I think that I'm very specific, but I suppose in the past, because of the tight stereotypes, I've had to play those stereotypes, whereas now I feel the industry is opening up
yeah,
and and I take energy from that, and I take energy from the people who've, like, gone before me and, like, opened up the doors and, like, campaigned and been activists and things like that.
yeah.
So, yeah, that's my coping mechanism.
I was going to ask, do you feel changes within the industry all in the right direction?
Definitely. Um, America seems to be slightly ahead because the machine of production in America is so much bigger, so that they're just getting places faster. But, like, there's so many Asian Americans doing incredible work, and, it's a sign of sign of the times when there's more than one Asian in the show. You're like, "Oh my god, there's what?"
Yeah,
Um, so you don't have the burden of representing, like, all the Asians in the world, and yeah, so that's exciting when you have different ages and different, goodies and baddies. I want to see different body types,
yeah,
you know? Lena Dunham in Girls, for example, I know a lot of people found it problematic, but I thought it was so great to see a central character with a non-traditional stereotypical body type
yeah,
on screen doing regular things. And I would love that for Asians as well.
yeah. I totally agree with you, and I will never forget somebody saying to me when I was younger, "Well, you'll only ever be like the fat friend."
Oh.
I think it's really stuck with me. I mean, I'm 41 and I've only just in the last 4 years let go of my body issues, you know.
Well done.
Thank
I'm
you.
not. I'm almost there.
Yeah, I'm surprising myself with it. I have to say, I'll sort of walk past the mirror and wait for that voice. I mean, we digress in conversation. Wait for that voice to come in, going, "You're this, you're that," and I sort of look and it's not there, and I'm like, I've reprogrammed. It's possible. You can do it.
That's great. But again, because with storytelling,
Yeah.
people are so tied to archetypes and things, right? The lead needs to look like this, the best friend, the villain. And we did this exercise at drama school where we went around the room saying, what would you advertise? What would someone like you advertise? And I'm like, someone's like, Vera, electronics, washing products. Or and my teacher was like, you will play servants and I don't know, servants and whores is what they said. And I'm like, I get you. I hear this because that's the world that I'm going into. And to be fair, it was more of like you play subservient characters and like not the lead. I'm like, yep, that's happened generally. But yeah, it's interesting. I do feel things are changing. Obviously I'm impatient.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like with gender roles as well, like I know Spotlight, for example, has like female, male, non-binary, but then what about female presenting non-binary people? Like we haven't quite worked out what non-binary people are supposed to look like. They're not supposed to look like anything. They're just them, right?
I mean, it's very much work in progress while
Yeah.
everybody starts trying to understand and be sympathetic to, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
So can I talk to you about drama
Sure.
school? First of
Yeah.
all, did you challenge your teacher on that statement at the time? Or it can be quite difficult when they are in such a position of power and you're like, yes, sir, no, sir. Like, because I felt like that when I went, at a young age. So yeah, did you challenge him on it? And then ultimately, how was your whole experience for the poor school?
I didn't challenge him because I was like, he's not condemning me to a fate. He's just stating what he thinks the industry is going to do with me.
Yeah.
My experience at the poor school was great. It no longer exists, which is sad. It was a very interesting experience. A lot of people have had a terrible time there. But essentially, it was an uncredited school run by a person, and they understandably wanted to run it their way. I have never seen such amazing acting as I have seen within like a student production there in a black box studio. It was a production of Dancing of Lunasa, and I'm like, wow, this is world class to this day. At the same time, it was a little bit of a chaotic space, back in the day where you, you could do I mean, back in the day where it wasn't regulated. However, it was embedded in us to like be professional, turn up always early, always know your lines. Don't make any excuses of like why you can't do a scene, right? How do you remain creative and professional when you're exhausted and you're sick and everything's going on in life? There's rats running around. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but how do you do that? So there was a really hard training, but it was really it drilled down to the essence of get the job done and do it really well. And what I loved about it is that it didn't preach any particular theory or method. It was like you just find out the best way to do it and do it, right?
Yeah. I love
Which,
that.
yeah, arguably a drama school is there to teach you the different systems and then you work it out. But because it was a drama school, I had to work where we would train evening and weekends. There was no time. And again, it's like life. There's no time, get on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be really self-reliant and never blame anyone else for not being able to do your job. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think that's a really great takeout. God, so you had a full-time job
Yeah.
and the Paul School, is that how it worked? It was just evenings and weekends?
But a lot of hours. So it qualified, it had full-time training status. So
Yeah, that's what I
yeah.
mean. You must have, when did you sleep?
Never. Like, luckily it's London, so you can like be the person on the tube just talking to yourself as you're learning the lines.
Wow.
Walking down the street, like talking to yourself. There was no time, and I think it was, I've never had to work so hard. And in a way, I wish I did still have that amount of discipline. I think I might, maybe that'll be my mission this year. Just get back to that level of discipline. Because in real life, if you see people in your cast or whatever getting away with stuff, you're like, oh, all right. I'll
Yeah,
be,
easy.
just need to pick up bad habits. But
It's especially when you're in a longer running soap, I think it's
I'm not talking about my current job, but in general, right? Like
yeah,
you just look at your elders and you go, oh, they're not rushing to like do this or that. So maybe I can have that extra cup of tea. Like,
yeah. Such commitment and dedication and perseverance. It's quite extraordinary. And so when you left Paul School, did you get an agent from the showcase? Is that how it went?
Yeah. I'm going to share this. So you know how you normally have your public season at the end of drama school?
Yeah.
I, along with several people, and this is not uncommon at the drama school, which no longer exists, we got fired. We got fired from one of the shows. So basically, I had to go and like do something with my time. So I was auditioning for short films and I was meeting people off my own back. And so my point is, bad things happen, get on with it.
Yeah.
And then when I finally got to be on stage, I did get an agent and I was working. Yeah, I worked straight out of drama school on a regional tour with children, which
Whoa!
again, I was like, I don't know how to deal with children because at the time I was just terrified of them. I'd never done that kind of storytelling. I'd just Chekhov, fourth wall, that stuff.
Yeah.
Suddenly I had to do interactive theater and I realized that I'm really good at it and I enjoy it, right? So again, like keep being teachable and learn stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And do you have, so I know from there you went on to do quite a lot of theatre work,
Mhm.
and you're currently doing TV. Do you
Mhm.
have a process of how you form a character? Is there like, what did you figure out from drama school? What is your way of working? I don't think there's any one right way for anyone.
Mhm.
But I just wondered if you had something you might share with us.
A character. So I don't think it's super different forming a character for a stage versus screen, but I suppose with a soap, because it's written, you don't have a script and you go, that's what I'm playing. I get new scenes all the time. And because of the nature of Hollyoaks, it is so reactive to the world, what's happening in the world. Sometimes your character does change and you just have to do it, right? You play what's written to the best of your ability. But it'll be anchored in things like she's a mom, she has these values. And if it doesn't make sense, and if you have to shoot, you just have to make it make sense. And that I think comes from my poor school training. You can't go, I wouldn't say that, and like hold up filming unreasonably unless it's so,
Yeah.
whatever.
Think
But
about,
for theater, I would say building a character would be sort of, I love writing. I love good writing. I like seeing how a character speaks. And I was told this, and I do believe this to this day. You can't read a script too many times. Every time you read it, more stuff will come out. And you will probably know this, like when you're doing a long run of a theater show, it'll be like the last week or the last show, and you go, oh, that's what that means. And you've done it like 100 times. So you can just speed up that process by reading it over and over again. And then I know some people write it all down. I don't do all the journaling when I prepare a character, but I go, how do I speak? Why do I say the things I say? You know, another way of thinking about it is these are the only words that this person could have said in response to what was said before. And so, like, what kind of person does that? So yeah, to like really get into the mindset. I love being on my feet and seeing how the person is in space. And just continually trying out different strategies. A great exercise we did at the poor school was
Yes, share.
your lines might be, oh, I would like to have some cheese. But what's the subtext, right? So we would just improvise things where you would talk about nothing that was going on, and then people have to guess what the relationship was. And of course, that works really well with, say, a Chekhov, where nobody is talking about their feelings. But I think it works really well for all kinds of writing. What else is happening?
Well, because that's the small talk, isn't it? It's the small talk that we all have.
Yeah.
And underneath, there is always so much more going on.
Mhm.
And I find that quite difficult, actually. Just staying on this. Pardon?
Which bit do you find
Well,
difficult?
just in life as a
Mhm.
human, I'm developing a really good self-awareness, and I had a conversation with someone the other day around small talk and the deep. Like, I find it, if we go, let's go straight to the deep chat. That's what I love about these chats. We're like straight in with all the juicy stuff of learning from each other, and just the subtext of what is sometimes going on. So, with that line, I would like a piece of cheese. Is that and this is just as a demonstration for anyone that's listening, a way of making conversation with somebody that you are deeply in love with, or how do I get that person to I don't know what else to say, and it's just there's cheese there's so much that can go on underneath that.
Yeah, I love that.
Myself in real life, and that's what we have to take. It's like having this. That's what I really try and encourage people on this platform to do, is develop their self-awareness of their own human behavior, because that then gives you access to so much.
For sure. First of all, I'm really bad at real life humaning. I find small talk really confusing. I go straight for like the big questions, and I'm always interviewing people like,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh gosh, Vera, you're a bit intense. But I wonder though, whether, because the world is so different now with the way we speak and social media and stuff like that, whether we are communicating in a very different way to what's written, like say in the classics. So I keep talking about the polar school experience, but he would say, one of my teachers go, people don't talk like that. And I'm like, yes, they do, because at the time, so I was watching a lot of Friends at the time, and you know how Chandler would emphasize strange words in a sentence. And my drama teacher would be like, why are you speaking in such a weird way? And I'm like, oh, I'm not intentionally doing this, but media, television today is influencing speech patterns. And now, several years later, we've got social media, and I don't know whether people give space to have those awkward, I'd like a piece of cheese, but I'm deeply in love with you conversations, right? So whether that's going to affect how we rehearse older pieces of writing. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah. I do know what you mean.
Like the length of sentences in some old pieces of writing is so long, and we don't speak like that anymore. So it's hard.
Yeah, it is.
Things like the thought process, or like to even physically keep speaking.
To have the breath.
Yes. So all that technical training, that's why I do think people should go to drama school if they can, or have an awareness of technical training in between jobs if they can't go to drama school. So like, doing a short course or a workshop of like, oh yeah, these are skills that I could add to my.
Oh, totally. We do a warm up before every show. We have a physical warm up and then we do a voice warm up. And at the beginning, we were doing, holding our breath and letting out on an S, a Z, and and an R. And I was on about, I do about 20 seconds, I think. And we're just building it every time. And it's so satisfying to see the development of my lungs, so that if I do ever come across a Shakespeare or something like that I'm going to do, that I have the capacity and the physicality, I'm physically capable of potentially holding that.
Yeah. And even if people say, oh, I don't need to train my voice because I'm doing screen, I'm like, you don't have to project, but you would have possibly a richer voice or like a wider range. And basically your body's your tool, right? So if you want to express stuff, if it's getting stuck because your muscles are not limber, then that's a shame. I mean, I'm sure you're still doing a good job, but you could do so much better job if you had access to your body.
Yeah. No, I think any training, and I try to encourage that in this country. In America, they do it quite a lot. They always train after they've trained, like the work continues.
Yeah.
And here, I don't think it might be changing, but I don't think people tend to do that as much. And actually, it's so beneficial.
I completely agree. I think we're embarrassed, or there's a sort of status of, I don't have time to be in a room of beginners. And I think you can learn from beginners. The other place I trained was with Philippe Gollier in France, and he doesn't do auditions. He's like, if you want to train, you come. And everyone's learning from everybody else because he just levels you. He's like, right, you might be good at these things. We don't care. We're going to challenge wherever you're at. We're going to challenge you at that point.
Yeah. What was the name of that?
Philippe Gollier. My French is, I don't speak French, but Gaulier.
Yeah. Okay.
He's best known for being a clown teacher. So Sacha Baron Cohen went there and stuff like that. A lot of people find him problematic, but that's a big conversation. I have learned a lot from him.
Yeah. Take what you want and leave the rest is what I always say.
Yeah. But also always research your teacher, because in an age where you need to maybe be aware of anything that might trigger you and things like that, you just want to be armed with information, and then you accept, once you make that contract with yourself, be it a job or a drama school or whatever, go, okay, that's what I agreed to do. I made this decision, so I'm going to do it.
I'm going to be Googling him immediately. See what the conversation is. Oh, Vera, we've reached our time, but thank you. I could talk to you for so long. I've got so many questions.
I would love to talk to you about you, but hey, another time.
Oh, definitely. Look, let's stay connected. What one piece of advice, I know you've given me loads of advice in this chat, but what would be the one thing that you'd say or suggestion that you would make for anybody, no matter what age, starting out as actors?
Starting out?
Yeah, trying to get into the industry.
I think do as much. This is not going to be witty or succinct. Do as much training as you can afford, and just be, like you said, teachable, and absorb what you can, and watch your classmates. Just learn and see what works for you, and experiment, and be brave to try, and don't be afraid to make a complete fool out of yourself, because that's where the magic is. Make all the mistakes, risk stuff,
All forwards, fall forwards.
Yes. Oh my God. I didn't. Yeah. 4 words. I've not heard that. That's great.
Yeah. And the more you do something, the better you get at it. And if you want to act, I always say act, wherever that may be around you, just be open, pay attention, be aware to opportunity that is an offer.
Yes. Thank you. That's a good reminder to me.
Thank you, Vera. Vera, is it Vera, not Vera?
Either. I'll answer to either, but Vera's fine. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. And I hope we might see you on the platform soon.
Yay.
Yay. Sending lots of love. Bye.
Bye.